We have seen Unit 5 in the last class. To some extent, we have seen this one. I will just quickly revise the whatever the portion which has completed. So Unit 5 is regarding this food industry, corrosion and its prevention. So food industries like fruits, vegetables, meat and everything which comes under the food industry, how to preserve them, how to store them, okay, excluding the harvesting, okay, whatever the after harvesting, whatever we obtain the food, we will store, we will process, we will transport that one. How to store that one, how to preserve that one, how to transport that food, we have to see in this one. Part A, that is. Part B is regarding corrosion. How many types of corrosion are there? What are the preventive measures? We have to take that one. Then part A is food industry. So first is reasons to study and develop the food industry. Then food storage, food processing, and food transport. So any type of industry, food processing, food industry will be involved in all these types of operation, which is food storage. First, after harvesting the food, it has to be stored. Then it has to be processed in some value-added products or consumer products. Then it needs to be transported. So before harvest, after harvest also, or post harvest also, we need a transportation, because the food which has been produced at one location can be used in other location. So they will not use food as such where they are produced. Okay, the remaining food will be transported to other parts of the world. So food transportation is also very important. Then food preservation, there are many techniques, like in the olden days we have used this. Now also we are using this pickling technique, or drying the fish. So in order to increase the shelf life, we are using this food preservation techniques. Traditionally as well as industrial scale also, this type of operations are applicable. So any type of food industry will have all the four operations, which are food storage, food processing, food transport, and food preservation. Then in detail about what is storage, what is processing, what is transport, and what is preservation, we have to see in details. Then food storage and transport. So during the food storage and transport, what we have to do in the maximum, when you are storing that food for the particular period of time, means we have to store in the refrigerated condition. Then only the multiplication of pathogenic bacteria, or some spoiling food spoiling bacteria will not reproduce themselves, and will not, the food will not be ripen out, or the shelf life will not be decreased. In order to increase the shelf life during the transportation as well as during the storage, we have to use the refrigeration cycles, or refrigerated containers, or refrigerated rooms. So some of the engineering aspects of cold storage, how to design the cold storage, we have to see in that one. Then dairy industry. So dairy industry, mainly the pasteurization of milk. Okay, whatever the milk we are using in the packets is nothing but a pasteurized milk. So high temperature for a short period of time, high temperature heating for a short period of time, nothing but a pasteurization of milk. So what are the dairy products involved? What are the major dairy products? Okay, how can we derive that one? We see in this one. Then food irradiation. So food preservation techniques. This food irradiation will comes under the food preservation techniques. One is the refrigeration, will also comes under the food preservation technique, and food irradiation is also a refrigeration technique. And food additives, adding some food additives in order to increase the shelf life of the food, so is also an food preservation technique. So how many types of additives are there, what are the application in each case of these additives, we have to see apart from this food irradiation. Then the reasons to study and develop food industry. So we have seen this reasons to study many types of the food industry, which now, earlier in the good olden days, the food industry is a concern only about the small scale industries. Now the big players has come into existence, and they are playing a major role in food processing as well as food industry. Overall, in the domain of food industry, they are playing a major role. Now the statistics, if you see, this food industry is always also getting towards the 39.71 billion US dollars. So our country is also a second largest in exporting food or in processing food, but we don't have a sufficient infrastructure. So infrastructure we need to build on that. Nowadays many large players are coming on, so we are in hope that food processing industry will be developed much more. These are the statistics which we already discussed earlier. So some of the major players like PepsiCo or some Maltova or GSK groups, Mapro groups or Dabur group or Parley, Nestle, these are the big players in the food processing industry. They will produce not one, they will not produce food, they will only process the food to the value added products. So the cost of the food increased in the processing in processing that foods. Right now, the whatever the agricultural harvest are there, if they procure at 1 rupee, they will, after processing, they will sell that as 50 rupees or 100 rupees. The advantage of increasing the price, at the same time the hygiene of this food is also increased. Then the challenges faced by Indian food processing industry, so infrastructure challenges and poor supply chain linkages, transportation mechanisms, all these are there. A shortage of manpower and low adherence to quality standards. We are not good at setting of the quality standards. At the same time, we are not a follower of a good quality standards. So these are all the bottlenecks for our Indian food processing industries. This is also completed, and key drivers of growth in food processing industry. So key drivers are, what is the motivation for developing this key this industry, food processing industry? So consumer spending of food. Consumer wants to spend more on the processing foods nowadays. In a family, if you consider a small family, so husband and wife both are just working members only in the family. So the taste is changing, their consumer behavior is changing, because they want instant food. Instantly whatever they want to cook, they can cook instant, like a cup noodles or instant noodles, or something instantly like oats. Instantly we will dissolve in some milk or some hot water, we will just prepare, we will consume that one. So consumer behavior is changing. According to that consumer behavior, the industry is also seeing enormous growth in this sector. Then growth in food export, we are also exporting some part of the food to the other parts of the world. And availability of cheap workforce, so India is having a cheap workforce, to availability is very high. So we can use, these are the driving forces, or this we can consider as a motivation to develop the food industry. Then government support is also there, obviously, to develop. So there is a foreign direct investment policy is also there. So this government has been implementing this foreign direct investment policy. Because of this, many subsidies they are getting, the food processing industries. Then physical benefits, a lot of GST refunds and everything they are giving. Then increased focus on infrastructure. So because of this supports, there is an increased focus on the infrastructure. So infrastructure they are developing. Then revamped national mission on food processing. So this national mission on food processing, this will help to develop furthermore the infrastructural as well as some bottlenecks in the transportation, and reach towards the reach of many urban societies, and to the major part of the rural society also. They are now going to sell their products. So nowadays, only the food processing industry, or the packaged food, is the only concern for the urban areas. But this is being expanded to the rural areas. If that is expanding towards the rural areas, then the food processing industry will see an enormous growth, and the profits will be very high for the food processing industry. These are the supports which are provided by governments. Then operations of food industry. So all the food industry will have a four major operation. What is the food storage? So food storage is concerned about the post harvest as well, pre-harvest and post harvest also. After harvesting, what we will do, we will do some processing. After that also storage is required, in terms of packet, in terms of canning, or something we will require like this. Before harvest, what we require, refrigerated, in order to increase the shelf life until the processing has to takes place. The storage condition needs to be enhanced. So that refrigerated storage, everything comes under this food storage category. Then food processing. So food processing means converting the raw food into some value added products, so that its shelf life will be increased. At the same time, the taste of the food will be increased, the nutrition value will be increased, change in nutrition value, or the then obviously the price will be increased, then that will be profitable for that industry. Then food transportation, before processing and after processing also, the transportation plays a major role. Why? Because the refrigerated ride and road carriers, when we have the transportation to the large very far away locations, is very much easy. Then we can supply our food to other locations also, we can export our food. When export increases, the foreign exchanges will be increased. So dollar exchange and everything will be increased. That will have the add upon to the GDP growth of our country. Then food preservation. In order to increase the shelf life of any food, we will add some preservation techniques like heat treatment. We can say inert glass blanketing. So whatever the left out space in the is there in the canning, it will be airtight sealed, or some inert gas will be inserted in order to increase the shelf life. Like if you see the dry fish, the fish. If we just catch a fish from the sea or some pond, what happens within the no time or within the 1 day time, we have to use that fish. But what happens when we dry that fish, when we just apply some salt on that fish, so its shelf life will be increased. We will consume that fish for the year also. So because of this, there's a dried fish or there's salted fishes are there. So that type of fishes, that the fruit, if you consider the case of fruit, the fruit will be ripened easily within a 1 or 2 days. It will be ripened easily. When we dried it, when we just sucked out that water from inside, so dehydrated that food, what had happened, it will be converted into some dried fruit. That dried fruit will have a large maximum shelf life. So we can increase the shelf life in that way. So increasing the shelf life using some inerting technique or inert blanking technique or some heat treatment or irradiation or by adding some additives is comes under this food preservations. So all the food processing industries will have all the major operations, only the four major operations. The first one is the food storage, second one is the food processing, then third one is the food transport, then food preservation. All these operations are carried out in food industry, any type of food industry. Then what is this food storage? So food storage is nothing but in order to increase the shelf life. Okay, whatever the after harvesting, post harvesting, what we have to do, we have to increase their shelf life before processing. Okay, before processing we have to increase the shelf life, and after processing also we have to increase the shelf life. So if we not increase, we cannot increase the shelf life. What happens due to the respiration or due to the damage which is created by some pathogenic bacteria or some insects or something, the fruits or vegetables or whatever the cereals are there will be ripened out. So that will be destroyed, causing a spoilage in the food, and huge amount of food will be result in the loss. So that in order to lower that, we need to have a proper storage. Okay, storage is also very important. There are many steps are there in order to minimize the damage, which since we already covered this one, you can go through this one. Then the next one is the food processing. Okay, then there are many types of food processing industries are there. Largely, they will be categorized under 8 categories. One is the consumer food. The next one is the grain processing industry. Consumer food industry, you can see this bakery items or bakery items like puffs, egg puffs or something, bread. This all comes under this consumer food industry, or Haldiram's products and everything will comes under the food processing industry. Then the next one is the grain product processing industry, like rice mills. This all comes under the grain processing industries, like wheat mill, wheat flour making mill, rice mill, or ragi flour making mill, corn flour making mills. This will comes under the category of grain processing. Then marine products like fish, shrimps, or we will call this one fishes or aquaculture. More preciously, we can call the aquaculture industries. All will comes under this marine products industries. Then the dairy product industries, like what we say, this one, milk products, milk products, bread, and everything will comes under this dairy production product industry. Then poultry and meat industry, like chicken, sheep, lamb, everything will comes under this poultry and meat industry. Then the fruit and vegetable processing. So whatever the vegetables after post harvesting, it will be categorized. It will be stored separately, and it will be brought to the market and it will be sold. So this will categorize under fruit and vegetable processing. Then fats and oils. We have seen in this CT2 itself what is the fats and oils, what is the role of them. So that industry we already discussed in this one. Then sugar industry. So sugar is also a separate industry. All these industries will comes under this administrative control of Ministry of Food Processing. So Ministry of Food Processing Industries, so Government of India, it will comes under. But all these food processing industries will will have one or more than one operation. Like the operations are dehulling, refining, and milling. So what is this dehulling, refining, and milling? So dehulling means whatever the grains, like if you consider the paddy, the straws, the rice is there. On that one the straw will be there, that straw removal, so that is called as dehulling. Or in the seed itself, some peanut seeds or something, so outer shell removal is nothing but a dehulling. So this process, largely many types of industries will apply this process. And refining. So refining, we can mean that after refining a sugar syrup, so what will form is sugar crystals will be formed. So that will comes under the refining sugar from the sugar cane. Or the milling. Milling means converting the cereals into this flours, like a corn flour, like we can say some from some grains we can wheat flour, like this, the milling process. Then a canning process, in order to increase the shelf life of any type of product, like a meat products, okay, like a fish, okay, it will be just inserted into some can, and that will be filled in a airtight container. Then that will be disinfected. So that is called as a canning technique. So in order to increase this the shelf life of that particular product, the canning technique will be used. And concentration, if you take the example of sugar industry, the concentration, after concentrating the sugar syrup or sugar juice, sugar cane juice, what happens after concentrating up to the saturation levels or super saturation levels, that sugar juice will be concentrated more, and it will be converted into a crystal form in the crystallizer. So concentration is also a popular technique. And naturally, if you contain a large amount of fruits or vegetables, will contain protein and water inside that one. So we will remove that water. The concentration of fruit juices is also an example for this concentration. Then freezing. So freezing, why we do freezing? In the freezing itself, the microorganisms cannot be killed, but the reproduction, their growth will we can stop by freezing the food. So freezing also operation after post harvest and pre harvest also we can do a freezing operation. Then drying. So after we remove the water content which is present in the natural products, the shelf life we can be increased. The drying is also one of the major operation in food processing industry. Then pasteurization and sterilization. So pasteurization means the high temperature for a short period of time, high temperature heating for a short period of time, so that the disease causing pathogenic bacteria like a clostridium or botulinum, this type of bacteria will be there, it will be killed automatically by heating at high temperature relatively for a short period of time. So that is called as a pasteurization. Largely whatever the milk we are drinking from the packets from various dairy industries is uses this pasteurization technique. And sterilization, like if you see the hospital equipments will be there, these equipments will be sterilized at high temperature or high radiation. So ionizing radiations will be there, that will be used in order to kill the bacteria, so the or some insects which are deposited on that one, that is called sterilization. So after canning technique, after some packing technique, what happens, usually these packets will be go to the sterilization unit. There this will be irradiated with some radiation source, this will be irradiated, and that will be sterilized, called as sterilized foods. Then the next one is the fermentation. So fermentation we have seen in the earlier units. The fermentation is nothing but a conversion of these carbohydrates or sugars using some bacteria, using some bacteria or some microorganisms. So that is called as a fermentation. So fermentation is also a popular technique in the biogas. We have seen in the ethanol production. We have seen this fermentation technique. So fermentation technique is also an important technique to in the food industry itself, like vinegar preparation, like we call this acetobacter, that type of bacteria we will use in order to prepare the vinegar. So ethanol, for the ethanol production, for this one ethanol production, salmonella, like Escherichia coli, this type of bacteria we have used to convert the carbohydrate sources into the ethanol. Like for this one lactobacter, we are used to convert this milk to curd. Everything will comes under the example of fermentation. Then food irradiation, this, what is this food irradiation, what is the radiation, what is the irradiation? So radiation is nothing but a source of that energy which is coming is called as a radiation. The medium, the material from which the radiation, that particular energy is coming, is called as a radiation. But this radiation, on what matter we are applying, on what purpose we are applying on something, is called as an irradiation. So irradiation, food irradiation is also a good technique, which using some ionizing radiation. So there will be two types of radiation. One is a non-ionizing radiation, Other one is the ionizing radiation. So ionizing radiation usually used in this one. So non-ionizing radiations will be used in separate other purposes like microwave ovens. In the microwave ovens, the non-ionizing radiations will be used. In this food irradiation, they will change a matter. They will produce uh, um, two electronic pairs, two charged pairs. When we just treat some food with some ionizing radiation, the product will be some two charged pair of electrons will be the result. Whereas in the non-ionizing radiation, there will be no product output. Just it will supply some heat to that one. So in the case of microwave, but in the food irradiation, what happens? The ionizing radiation will be given to that one using that energy. It will just modify the DNA structure of the microorganisms which is present inside that one. After modification of the DNA structure, the microorganisms will automatically be die, be in a stage of a dead stage. So when we irradiate some food, the microorganisms which is there inside that one, they due to the modification of their DNA structure or destruction of their DNA structure, it will automatically die. So this is also a popular technique which can be used in food industry. Then packaging. Okay, how we can package like airtight containers packaging or some aluminum foil packaging. So in order to increase the shelf life, every possible aspect in the food industry will be looked upon. So all these operations are usually carried out in the food industry. And next one is the consumer food industry. So how many types of industries are there? We have seen in this one. So these are the types of food processing industries. So 8 categories are there, and these are the operations which are carried out in the food industry. So operations right from dehulling, refining, and just I will read once again the types of food industry. Food processing industry means consumer food industry, then grain processing industry, then marine product industry, dairy product industry, poultry and meat industry or product industry, fruit and vegetable processing industry, fats and oils industries, then sugar industry. These are all the industries, types of food processing industries. Then these are the types of processing operations which are there in that industries. In every industry, this type of operations will be there. So one or depending on that particular type of product which they want, depending on that one or the more than one of these techniques will be applied. But any of this technique will be present, any of this operation will be present inside the food processing industry, like dehulling, refining and milling, then canning, concentration, freezing, drying, pasteurization and sterilization, fermentation, food irradiation, food packaging. So like this, these are the food processing operation. So in detail, we will discuss what are the types of food processing industries. Like the first one is a consumer food industry. In the consumer food industries, the confectionaries like the bakery items, the soft drink items, or some packaged food items, everything will comes under this food processing industry. So consumer behavior is obviously changing. So by just capturing that consumer behavior, the every possible industries has been coming out. Like this one, the PepsiCo industry, they are catching every possible business in the soft drink category, like some cool breezers. We'll call some soft wines. So this is also one type of industry. Then Haldiram Bhujiyas, whatever the processed foods. Okay, the raw materials will be processed in some category of food that will be just packaged, and they are just leaving this in the consumer food markets. Then cup noodles or instant noodles, we will say. So instantly we can prepare. Depending on the consumer behavior, the particular type of product will be coming outside the market. And chocolates and the foods or confectionaries, whatever the puffs, breads, everything will comes under this consumer food industry. This is also forming a major part. So in this industry, if you take the example here, what we can use, the flour dehulling of that particular grain or wheat, we consider dehulling we will do. After that, the refining, not refining, we'll say this one, grinding. Okay, refining or milling we will say, the milling operation will also be carried out to convert that wheat to some flour. After converting that wheat to flour, they will prepare some dough by dissolving that wheat powder into some water. Then the dough will be just fed upon by some bacteria, using that bacteria. After they are consuming that one, the biscuits or some this bread will be using the fermentation operations, they will be preparing this bread or some bread related products. So fermentation here they are using, dehulling process they are using, then milling process they are using. So in the bakeries usually this process will be taking place. So this all this will comes under the consumer food industry. Then the next one is a grain processing industry. Mainly this grain processing industries will be of three categories. One is the primary unorganized. So in the primary unorganized, if you see the small mills will be there, like um, wheat flour giving mills in the roadside. If you see that one comes under the primarily unorganized, they are not at all organized sector, they comes under the unorganized sector. Then in the cottage scale, if you see the large type of mills will be there. So that mills will become some um, rice flakes, we will say this one, this rice flakes manufacturing industries will comes under this cottage scale. Then a big rice mills will be there, that big rice mills will comes under this organized sector. So government will also own some of this grain processing industries in the organized sector. So primarily unorganized sector industries in this category, grain processing industries will be very high, because they are nothing but a grinding mills or flour mills or rice hullers, we will say, or we can say oil mills also will comes under this primarily organized unorganized sector. Then cottage scale, which can include the bakeries. Okay, the direct usage of this flours, all the flours will be resulted in some confectionaries or some bakery items, consumer food industry. So the confectionaries which we can prepare from this will comes under the category of cottage scale, like bakery units, which comes under the cottage scale. Then organized sector, like big rice mills, which consist all this hulling mechanism or polishing of rice will form this organized sector. So these three types of industries will be there in this grain processing industries. All the output of this is like a wheat we will get, then rice we will get, the graded rice, the brown rice we will get, white rice we will get, depending on the level of polishing. So all this will comes under the grain processing industries. So some will they will use this rice flakes, they will use this rice flakes is also one type of products from this type of mills or the processing industry. Then the next one is the marine industries. So mainly this industries will comes under the category of aquaculture. So the aquaculture is the major products from this marine product industries. Like fish, they can grow here. Crustaceans. So all this type of crustaceans like shrimps, copad, ostracod, all this will be just grown in order to consume them, like prawns, the crabs. Okay, these are eatable. I know only this one. The prawns will be eaten and crabs will be eaten, and I don't know what are this one. So this will be comes under the category of crustacean. So crustaceans and fishes will be just grown inside some aquaculture industries. From there, it will be supplied to some food processing industries. From there, it will be their shelf life will be increased. Increase using some formalin or some formaldehyde. We will say this. Applying some formalin on that one, the shelf life of the fish or some fish products will be increased. So aquaculture is the major part in this marine food industries. So what happens here is mainly whatever the waste products are there, some carbohydrates or something, when you throw inside some fish ponds, the fish will be grown. So that whatever the waste carbohydrates which we are throwing on that one, it will be converted into some useful proteins. Fish will be largely of useful proteins only. The limited amount of cholesterol will be there. The marine industry will have a lot of advantages. Though this one forms the marine industry largely. If you see the example in the Nellore district, so Nellore district will be largely known for this aquaculture only. They will grow this largely this aquaculture fishes or shrimps or some crustaceans they will grow. And Tamil Nadu is also known for this aquaculture industry. They are largely located there. So this industry is also called as a biological industry, because all these are the biological products only. Then the dairy industry. If you see the dairy industries, uh, um, after taking the milk, there are many useful products we can derive from the milk, like directly after pasteurizing, after extracting the skimness of that milk, or extracting the cream of that milk, whatever the pasteurized milk will be there, we will just drink that milk. And other products like butter, cheese, something we will derive from this one. There are many useful products we can derive from this milk. Like if you see, there are seasons. Okay, in one season the milk from the cows will be very high, in other season the milk from the cows will be very low. So depending on the off season, what the milk already obtained during the season will be just converted into some powder, so milk powder. During the off season, that milk powder can be used instead of a milk. So that's a cyclic process. Then after extracting the cream of that milk, that cream of the milk can be converted into some of the major products like sour cream, fresh cream, flavored milk chocolate, strawberry banana, or ice cream, yogurt, milk, low fat or skimmed milk we can prepare, or butter, margarine, cheese, cottage cheese, soft cheese. All these are the products which can be prepared, which are coming from the dairy process industries. So if you see the milk we have to drink within the 1 day. So before pasteurization. So if you leave without pasteurization, that milk can't be stored more than 1 day. So though we can refrigerate it and we can increase the shelf life for 1 or 2 days after storing in some refrigerator. But after pasteurization, the shelf life of the milk will be increased for example for a 10 days period. But with a tetra pack technology, when you tetra packed that milk, that shelf life will be increased more than 6 months also. Nowadays we are getting the milk, we can directly drink that milk after pasteurization, and it will be stored in some tetra packs. The tetra packs, what it will do, the tetra packs will stop the reproduction of that pathogenic bacteria, the microorganisms which are there inside that one. Pasteurization will obviously kill that one, and Tetra Pak will just lower the probability of getting that bacteria once again into that one. So by storing in that way, pasteurization and packing in a Tetra Packs, it will increase the shelf life to more than 6 months. So that's the advantage by the packaging. Then if you see the yogurt, converting these milks to some yogurt, the shelf life will be increased more than 1 week or something. Then the cheese will have the more than 6 months shelf life. The shelf life, obviously this type of industries, what they will do, they will convert this product into some the raw product into some useful product, so that the shelf life of that particular product will be increased. And also due to the taste, due to the variation of the products, this type of industry will operate in such a way that it will increase the shelf life, it will have some taste to add to the taste to the product, it will increase the nutritional value, it will convert to some other uh, um, consumer related products, so that its profits will be increased. That's the advantage of this dairy industry. Then poultry and meat industry. If you see the poultry and meat industry, largely we will eat this one. So the beef or chicken or some lamb, sheep or pig, this is also eaten by many of the many of the people. So all this we can just convert, we can just kill them and convert into some meat products. So this meat we will consume directly. And at the same time, the popular products from this type of industry is also their skin. So this skin we can use to convert it into some leather products, so leather output products, or some shoes we can manufacture, or something like a sweaters we can manufacture. And apart from this one, the cow dung, using the cow dung we can prepare the cow dung cakes also, so that we can burn instead of some wood, soft wood or something. So these are all the products which can be obtained. So here using the food irradiation technique, we can increase the shelf life of this meat products, so that the whatever the pathogenic microorganisms are there, that will be killed down, and it will be stored for the maximum amount of time. Fruits and vegetable processing. So fruits and vegetable processing, as such, if you consider the fruits and vegetable processing industry, the fruits we can use maximum in 1 week, and vegetables we can store maximum for 1 or 2 days. But when you convert this into some useful products like packaged food, or some minute maid or some tropicana fruit juices, how they are storing that food for a large period of time, or 6 months, or up to their expiry date, using some preservatives, using some techniques only, they are preserving that food. Maybe the irradiation, it may be possible. Maybe they are adding some additives, may be possible. Some harmful additives may add, may they had in that one. It is possible. Using that all the possibilities only, they are storing their food in separate category, and they are increasing the shelf life of that particular food. So if you see this one, fruits, so it will be consumed within 1 day, or this vegetables which will be consumed within 1 week or 1 day, depending on that particular harvesting, or depending on that particular storage technique. So after that, when you can extract a product called a juice, then we can concentrate. In this industry, the concentration technique we can use. After concentrating that fruit syrup, we can convert that into some jellies, or some what we call this one, jams or jellies. We can convert that one. How this kisan jams, they are storing more than 6 months. So using some preservatives only, they are storing, they can able to store this one. So these are the useful products from the fruits and vegetable processing industries, like this kisan tomato ketchup. So all these ketchups, or all this, why? Because they are converting into this one, in order to increase the shelf life, in order to grab the attention of the consumer. They are doing somewhat some additives they are adding, they are increasing shelf life. Tomato, if you as such, if you consider, maximum 3-4 days we can store under the refrigerated conditions also. After that, it will start to ripen. So after it is ripened, what is the use in storing them? So when you convert into the ketchup, its life will be, shelf life will be increased to more than 6 months. So that's the advantage in this consumer food processing industry. Like milkmaid, pulpy orange juices will be there, tropicana juices. So these are nothing new for everybody, this is nothing new. For example, if you refer to some pickling techniques, okay, our mothers, our parents used to prepare this one by pickling the mangoes in the season of summer. What they will do, the mangoes will be cut down, and it will be prepared in a pickle that will be stored for round the year. It will come round the year. Why it will come round the year? Because using some technique, they are preparing that one, they are preserving, they can able to preserve that one round the year. If you take that mango, if you just store as such, it cannot last more than 1 week. So that will be just ripen out at some point in time. But when you convert it into some pickle form, it will be lasted for more than 1 year. So that's the advantage of the food processing. Here the food processing industry mainly concentrate on this fruit juices, jams, jellies, ketchups, these fruit juices and pickles. Everything will comes under this fruit and vegetable processing industries. Then fat and oil industries. So obviously these fat and oil industries, whatever the seeds we can obtain from the plants or some animal sources, all this will be converted using using the extraction technique, oil extraction technique, which we discussed in the earlier units. So you can refer to that one. So using some techniques, we will just prepare the oils. So in cooking or some other purposes. So that's a fat and oil industry will form one part of this food processing industry, comes under this one type of food processing industry. Then sugar. So sugar. What happens in the sugar industry? The sugar cane will be there. After harvesting it will be cutted down and it will be transported to some location, which is industrial location, and it will be dumped there. And from that one, it will be converted into a small chips. From that chips, it will be cooked down. Juice will be extracted from that one using the milling technique. The juice will be extracted by passing through the rolls. That juice will be used to concentrate them, use it to convert them into some crystal product up to the saturation, super saturation stage. It will be heated down in the crystallization. That sugar crystals will be prepared and packed them, packing in a packing. That sugar will be sent to the consumer wherever the consumer is located. So that's a sugar industry overall. Then the next one is a food transport. So what is the food transport? Until here, this is a food processing industry. Before that, we have seen the food storage, how to store the food, like a refrigeration and everything we can. So after this food transport, you come to know how to refrigerate that one. What are the refrigerated routes, refrigerated carriers, how the cold storage, what are the engineering aspects involved in the cold storage. Like this one, if you see the food transport, next aspect of this food industry is the food transport. So after harvesting and after processing of the food also, the food needs to be stored properly. without storing the food properly. So the attack from the microorganisms or the attack from the environment will be very high. When there is an attack from the environment or the microorganism, the spoilage of the food will be very likely. So there is no need for processing or no need for any storage when there is no proper transport, because the food which is uh, um, harvested at one location will not be consumed on that location itself. So it will be transported to other location. So it will be transported to some industry, some processing industry. Then only that food will be added into some value added product, like animals, the cattles, everything will be transported safely. They can be transported without any refrigeration. But on the counterpart, the plant based materials can't be transported into open environment. The fruits for the small location, for the simply not too much far away places, we can transport directly in the open environment. But for the far away places, or where there is a possibility of decreasing the shelf life of that food, of that fruit or vegetable will be transported using some suitable refrigerated road or rail carriers only. So here the role of chemical engineer is to transport safely the food without any ripening, without any spoilage of the food. So how to do that? What are the requirements in the food transportation? First, we should have some vehicle and suitable transportation equipment we should have. So in that one, we should design that equipment, we should maintain that equipment. How we can design and how we can maintain that equipment? So designing mainly involves the refrigeration. So here the refrigeration will obviously maintained by these mechanical engineers or the chemical engineers to large extent. The refrigeration cycle or this the type of suitable refrigerant which can be used inside that one. So in order to increase the efficiency of that particular refrigeration cycle, so it will be designed by the mechanical engineer or the chemical engineer. So design and maintenance is also important, so that the engineer has to ensure that there is no cause of any food spoilage during the transportation of this food from one location to another location. And at the same time, other requirement is a training of carrier person or a driver we can say, or a cleaner we can say. So they needs to be well trained. So they needs to have a idea that how to transport the food from one location to other location in a safe and hygiene manner. So if they are not transporting it safe and hygiene manner, there is no point in transportation. Otherwise, the food will be spoiled at that location. So the key requirements for the food transportation is vehicle and transportation equipment is must and should required, and the proper design and maintenance of the transport equipment in order to lower the spoilage of the food is also a key requirement. And training of carrier person. So they needs to carry that food safely in a hygienic manner, so that the food will not be spoiled before the location will come. So these are the three major aspects which we have to look about. So inside this designing aspect, we need to control the temperature. So refrigeration mainly to control the temperature from the surroundings. So advocate temperature control needs to be there, and preventing contamination of ready to eat food from touching raw food. So raw food, when we touch with some ready to eat food, what happens? There may be some reaction, there may be some spoilage due to that one. So whatever the spoiled food is there, we need to just separate them from the raw food, so that the further spoilage can be lowered. So like that, some guidelines will be there. Then protection of food from the contamination when non-food items in the same load for previous load. So this load, when some load is just transporting from one location to another location, after transportation, that entire vehicle needs to be hygienated or sterilized. Then only the next load we can give them to the next load. Then only it is possible that food will be remain in a hygienic stage. So these are the some of the guidelines for transportation of the food. Then the next aspect of the food industry is mainly in the food preservation. So how can we store the food preservation? What is the role of this food preservation in the food industry? So mainly this food preservation will takes place uh, in order to increase the shelf life. What is this shelf life? Shelf life means right from harvesting to the consumption, whatever the lifetime of that particular fruit or vegetable or cereal is there, that is called as a shelf life. So this preservation techniques largely use it to increase the shelf life of that particular product. So how can we increase the shelf life? So we can increase this shelf life using the following four ways. One is a freezing technique, by freezing it, whether it may be a normal freezing, whether it may be a freeze drying, drying plus freezing is called as a freeze drying. Whether we can do that one or otherwise dehydrating that one. Dehydrating is nothing but drying. So drying, dehydrating that particular fruit or particular vegetable and converting, extracting, sucking out that water inside that one will obviously increase some of the shelf life of the fruits and vegetables. Then drying is also one technique, or irradiation of the food or disinfecting of the food, we can say. So how does it works? And next technique is additives, adding some suitable additives like food grade additives. If you can DS100 or something, will be a code word will be there. That type of additives will be used in preserving some foods. Why to preserve this one? So without preservation, there is no part of a food processing or food storage industry. Why? Because with the food preservation only, it can be stored for the maximum period of time. Then right from the food processing to food, that food reaching to the consumer will largely depend on the particular preservation technique which has been applied. So here comes the advantage of freezing, drying and irradiation compared to the additives. So additives may be harmful, maybe not harmful. Not harmful additives will also be there. But largely what this food processing industries will do, they will add some harmful additives so that they will look after their advantage only. So when they are doing that one, when we are consuming that type of additives, it will have an adverse effect on the human life or our health. It will have a large effect. But if you say the irradiation, so what happens here? What is the radiation? What is the irradiation? So radiation is nothing but the energy source which we are receiving from something is called as a radiation. But at the same time, this energy which we are transforming on some other material is called as a irradiation. So the source of some energy is called as a radiation, and transforming the this radiation or a destination of that radiation is called as a irradiation. So what is the role of it? How safe is the irradiation of your food? Is it safe, or we have to add some additives, or we have to just look after the freezing or drying? So freezing or drying, to some extent, they will increase the shelf life. Largely, the irradiation and additives, they will increase the maximum amount of shelf life of this, maximum period of shelf life of any product. But how safe are these additives and irradiation? Compared to additives, from our knowledge, we can say that compared to addition of some additives, harmful additives, irradiation is somewhat okay, somewhat we can say it is safe. But what about the level of this irradiation? So if you see the level of irradiation up to 10 kilo grace is safe. What is this grace? Grace is nothing but the measure of this, how much irradiation, the amount of radiation which we are passing per unit or kg of the product is called as a gray. So 1 gray, from gray, 1 gray is nothing but amount of energy which we are giving for that one per kg of product or kg of some meat or something. So that is called as a gray. It will be measured. This irradiation will be measured in the units of gray. So up to the 10 kilo grays of irradiation is safe for the food. It will not alter anything inside. Okay, only the major role played here is to decay or to just kill the pathogenic bacteria inside that particular product. So up to 10 kilo grace is very safe using the food irradiation. But what about the additives? Additives are not at all safe. Whatever the additives are there, there is a maximum likely chance is there that they will just vary the structure or the quality of the food, because it is just adding to it. We are adding to it. There is a possibility of a reaction between that additive and this product. So when there is a possibility, there is also a probability that some off product or some external product, a third product can be emerged from this two components, additive plus some products. So compared to this additive technique, irradiation is somewhat safe. So yeah, this one, yeah, we will stop here. So this is a brief review for you what is taking place in the food industry up to here, fruit preservatives. Now this is important regarding your question papers. So they are maximum asking this one, engineering aspects involved in the cold storage, how to design that engineered cold storage. We have to see this one. This is the important questions they are asking in many times. Then radiation and irradiation. What is the radiation? What is the role of radiation? What is the role of irradiation? How they are increasing the shelf life? Okay, what is the process which is taking place? So this is also many times asked question in that one. For we will consider, we will take one class for the two topics at a go. So what are the process which is taking place? How the irradiation will works? The principle behind this food irradiation on the large scale, how this food processing will takes place. We'll discuss this one, and measurements of radiation doses. So as I said that it will be measured, irradiation will be measured in the grays. So this gray is nothing but 1 joule of absorbed energy per kg of product. So this gray, depending on this gray level only, the food processing will takes place. Up to the 10 kilo grays, the food, the treatment using the irradiation will be will not produce any harmful effect. After 10 kilograms, they will increase the large shelf life of that particular product, but somewhat it is categorized as a harmful category. Then the application of irradiation. What is the application of irradiation? What are the application at low dose levels? So as we said, up to the 10 kilograms, this is somewhat easy. There are three types of process for the irradiation also: radiorization, then next radicidation, then the radiation. All these are there. We will discuss in the next class. Yes. Okay, next we will see the what is freeze drying and everything, food additives, what are the types of additives, everything we are going to discuss the next class. Okay, until here, if you have any doubt, you can just ask me. This is
No
a very
doubt,
big
sir.
unit. This is very big unit. Until now, only this is a part A is this much big. Inside this part A, there are four popular questions. One is a this cold storage design, then freeze drying, then afterwards the food irradiation, then what are the operations which are carried by the food industry. This is the fourth question. Operations means this one: food processing, food storage, food transport, and food preservation. All these four operations you have to discuss in detail for this question. Then engineering aspects of the cold storage, you have to draw that figure and discuss about that one. Then freeze drying. What is freeze drying? How the freeze drying will take place? You have to draw this figure and you have to just explain that one. Then irradiation. Then these four questions, apart from these four questions, one question they are giving. So they are giving the one question in such a way that they will choose one of the industry, like a fruit and vegetable industry. They will choose one type of industry and they will ask to discuss about this industry. What are the products? What are the processes which they are applying in this industry? So you just apply your wisdom and just think about that. What are the different types of processes which can be applied? So all these processes will depend on this, all these nine operations only. All these nine operations, within this nine operations only, that particular food industry will be operating. Use your wisdom and just apply your knowledge there, and you have to discuss what this consumer food industry will do. Like preparation of this haldiram bhujia or something, they will apply the flooring technique or milling technique. Dehulling, they will apply this one. Then canning or packaging, they will apply here. Then after packaging, they will apply the food irradiation. Then fermentation is obviously they will not apply there. Then pasteurization will not apply. Then drying will obviously they will apply, drying and cooling. Then freezing, that products if required it will be stored under minus 20 degrees centigrade. Somewhat will be written there. The shelf life and everything to increase, it will be stored in some location, in some refrigerated area. Like this, use your wisdom in order to discuss about this particular type of industry. That's a question they are very limitedly asking, but popularly that four questions: storage, engineering aspects of cold storage, irradiation, then the operations like food transport, food preservation, food storage, and food processing. These four operations, a limited extent, you have to discuss all these four operations. That's the one question. Then this one, freeze drying. Okay, these are the popularly asked questions from your old question papers. Yeah, that's what somebody is saying. Some doubt? Any doubt?
No, sir.
Sir.
Okay, just read this one once again. You will understand. No problem in that one. Okay, thank you for listening.